An interesting topic today, what's new in medical claims processing? And indeed, you're wondering, this is a 15-year-old industry. What could possibly be new? Well, you've come to the right place to find out. So here I am on the left. I'm David Jenness with IBM. I focus on DataCap and on capture, and I have now since 1998 when I joined DataCap. And then, of course, we became part of IBM about 2.5 years ago. Sean Pendergrass is joining us from R2K. He's Vice President of Sales and also very knowledgeable and a lot of experience in this space. And I'm delighted to have him as a co-presenter. Sean, say hello. How are you feeling today?
Hi, everybody. Feeling great.
Super. So R2K, if you don't know, is a business partner of IBM. They are based in New York here, not far away from where I am addressing you. They focus on information management. They focus on enterprise content management. And in fact, they have a great deal of experience in capture and particularly in medical claims capture. So we're excited that they've joined the IBM team. They've got a great focus on the payer community as well as financial services. And we look to them for professional services, for consulting, and for managed services, and that's what they're good at. Now you understand who the players are today. So what could be new in medical claims processing? So here's our agenda. We'd like to kind of take a look at some things, some news that is impacting the claims business. We want to kind of take a look at where have we been. We'll look at a little bit of IBM DataCap history. We were one of the first to offer what they called a HICFA solution back in the day, and understand the evolution of the product that we're going to take a look at. And then, indeed, today, May 15th, is the announcement of DataCap Taskmaster Medical Claims Capture 8.1, and there's a couple of new features there, and we can talk about that. A couple of use cases so you understand how our customers are getting value using the DataCap product to get value. We'll look at the broader capabilities of the DataCap product because our medical claims capture solution is really a set of configured rules that sit on top of our product, and it means you can move laterally and try some of the other capabilities in DataCap. And Sean came up with a very interesting aspect. Remember, we talked about his consulting services. When he meets with customers, he asks them to evaluate their vendors by a certain set of criteria. So we're going to close with that, and you can do a little report card on your own vendors. I just want to start off with some headlines that I ripped from the papers. My goodness, the Affordable Care Act could see as much as a 30% increase for the payers. And what that means really is that you're probably going to see more claims. There are going to be more covered members because of this plan who previously may not have had access to health insurance, or they had what they call catastrophe type plans, who are now going to have more traditional health plans. So therefore, the percentage of members will go up, and therefore the percentage of claims will go up. So certainly, the Affordable Care Act could result more claims coming into your systems. Therefore, shedding some new light and some new value on our solution that we're talking about today. Here's an interesting headline that I pulled out. The AMA did a study in 2012 analyzing results from the top 7 insurers that a certain percentage of claims are paid inaccurately. Now, we all know this is certainly a reality. What's interesting, though, is there's been an improvement. The year before, there was almost 20%, and here we're looking at about 9.5%. So what's happening? Obviously, automation is having one of the great benefits we talk about when we talk about capture is taking data entry out of the hands of human beings who make mistakes, whose eyes get tired, and putting it into OCR and machines, and the accuracy goes up. Interesting to see that we're moving in the right direction. ICD-10 obviously has a role in the ability to better track claims, to better track health care in general. It does put a burden on the payer to be able to track and to move to the ICD-10 code set. It does create, of course, what we know is a new form that's coming, although the exact date has yet to be announced. But the new CMS 1500 will have to now incorporate the ICD-10 codes, and so therefore that will impact the industry. Is it going to lead to a significant cost? Well, since I've been working with DataCab, we've had several new forms introduced, which does require a little bit of services to get the new form supported. It's not really a significant setback of any kind, and I don't see that this would impact payers in any significant way either. So those are a couple of three stories that are percolating in the news that have to do with our particular industry. I want to segue over to Sean, who has really spent quite a bit of time lately talking with customers all over the country and has his own perspectives on what the MedClaim users, the MedClaim processors and payers like yourselves in our audience today are wrestling with. Sean?
Thanks, David. So while there have been some changes in operational requirements, I think that most people would agree that the medical claims capture market has been fairly quiet for the better part of the last 8 years. In recent months, we've noticed that there's been a renewed interest in this space, and I've spoken with a large number of companies and believe that there are actually several distinct root causes for that. The first one we see is fairly obvious, right? There is one vendor that has decided they are going to exit this space, and so their current claims capture solution is on an end-of-life path, and their current customer base is looking at alternate solutions in order to fill that gap. The second is, if people on the phone are like me, they're checking the NUCC website regularly to see when CMS is going to approve the new CMS 1500 form and announce the revised timeline. I think that as customers are looking at that, they've been reaching out to their vendor organizations for their current capture platforms and talking to them about, what they can expect in terms of timing and coverage for that new form. And I think that there's just some acknowledgement that there's been a lack of knowledge and clarity from certain vendors with regards to this new form, and obviously people want to feel comfortable that their vendor has at least as much knowledge, if not more knowledge, about upcoming and pending changes. I think that the next thing kind of dovetails back into this is that we've seen over the past decade that there's really been a knowledge erosion and lack of R&D investment in capture products from a few of the different vendors. And there are some reasons behind that, but it's resulted in both operational and IT impact. What we're seeing is application software is lagging behind advances in development platforms, hardware, operating system, and virtualization technologies. I'm hearing that customers are concerned that they know the product better than the people they call for support, and oftentimes you are finding that they're not at a supported release level and are really just feeling some angst. The next thing is a desire to migrate to a leading vendor. So, people may have started with a front-end capture solution that was focused primarily on medical claims OCR. As they've expanded their capabilities or as their needs have broadened, they want to move to another vendor that they can use advanced capture or classification technologies, semi-structured OCR, or move into more ECM capabilities beyond the capture market itself, and they don't want to make further investment in the product that they are currently leveraging. The next thing is we're seeing that people or companies are reevaluating their medical claims processing operations. What we've seen is that there are companies that have historically decided to outsource their claims processing operations offshore. And I think that we find on a somewhat cyclical basis that those decisions are reevaluated, and that in recent history we're seeing some people seriously consider bringing those operations back in-house. This may be due to public opinion concerns, quality issues, narrowing wage gaps, things like that. And then finally, I think that there is a percentage of companies out there that really felt that their volumes were too low to obtain the required ROI, for a front-end capture and OCR solution that are now, after a period of time, going back and reevaluating their options and seeing if there's solutions that meet their needs.
Very good. So this is the temperature, let's say, of the community today, some of the things that are going on. Let's look at how we got here, just to, again, set some levels, get some perspective, and if we look at how this industry has evolved and where it came from and sort of where it's headed and why we're at an interesting inflection point today. Back in the 80s, as some of the old-timers on this call may remember, claims were processed predominantly manually, and if there was a company getting into the exciting world of imaging, they were doing microfilm. And as we got into the late 80s, EDI began to become a solution. It began to infiltrate, and certainly some of the larger carriers and payers got involved with EDI. But paper managed to persist, and even into the early 2000s, paper, there were still roughly 2 billion paper claims that were being submitted every year, and that's quite a significant business challenge. As we got into the mid-90s, of course, HIPAA and that whole, the idea of standardization and of the privacy of data became a reality, though it didn't actually kick in until much later. And in fact, around the late 90s, we began to see the introduction of digital capture systems that were focused around capturing the HICFA form and what back then was called the UB92 form. But Sean, that's when you really became interested in this industry. I wonder if you'd pick up from around the late 90s.
So, as David was mentioning, I believe that core OCR technology really started to reach a general level of maturity and acceptance in the late 1990s, and initial focus was around structured forms processing. One of the broadest and historically most successful applications was for the HICFA 1500 and UB92 medical claims, which I'm sure everybody understands are the predecessors for the current CMS 1500 and UB04. If you went to EMC trade shows back at that time, hosted by organizations such as AIM, you would have found numerous vendors that showcased a medical claims OCR solution. From approximately 1998 to 2005, a large number of companies successfully implemented capture solutions for paper medical claims with different levels of complexity and success. The complexity varied greatly depending upon the form types that were implemented. Professional versus institutional, whether the claims were machine print versus hand print, dropout versus non-dropout, singles, multi-page, attached, non-standard claims. And then some customers also went further and instituted support for other additional claim types such as dental or, correspondence and other document types such as that. I think that starting in about 2003, we started to see that there were some companies with large volumes of paper claims started to outsource their mailroom and medical claims capture operations. And then in 2004 and 2005, and I don't want to use specific names, but three of the leading medical claims capture application vendors were acquired. Two haven't really been actively sold in the marketplace for many years, although there are still customers using these applications. And the third is currently on an end-of-life path, right? So as shown in the slide here, there was some significant vendor consolidation during that time period. In subsequent years, many of the smaller vendor solutions honestly went by the wayside due to lack of critical mass or went into a maintenance-only mode. Whether or not they would refer to them as this or not, I think that there are still some of these solutions out there in the marketplace that I would consider to be a legacy solution. As you move forward in this timeline, I think the larger capture vendors really refocus their attention on other areas such as distributed and multi-channel capture, automated forms classification, semi-structured and unstructured OCR support, right? And as we come into today, the reality is that the percentage of EDI claims to paper claims continues to increase, but paper isn't going away. So this is still a problem. There is still an ROI to be had. And with the Affordable Care Act, as David was mentioning earlier, there is an expectation that overall volumes can be expected to increase in coming years. So in turn, even though the percentage is going down, the total volume of paper claims is actually expected to increase. David, any additional comments on that?
No, what I thought I would do is say, hey, what has DataCap been doing all this time during the same time period? And in fact, if some of our listeners today are not familiar, then this might be educational. I'm not going to do every milestone on this list, but DataCap was founded in 1988. And it was founded by, the two guys in a garage kind of story. They're still actually with IBM today, managing the direction of DataCap. So it's been a very consistent management team from the beginning. And they were always interested in challenges and in the hard stuff. And in fact, in 1998, capturing the form known as the HCFA form, identifying where the data is on the document, locating that data, building validations for it. That was state-of-the-art at the time, and it was quite interesting. It's actually the time I joined DataCap as well. So my first product was the HCCS, we called it the Health Claim Capture System. And in fact, we were one of those vendors that Sean is referring to, who you might see at an ECM show, talking about medical claim capture. But medical claims was just one of the many different document types that DataCap focused on. And as I say, the team was always interested in challenges. And in fact, there's a couple of firsts here. Number one, we had the first web-based capture, meaning a thin client scanning anywhere, anytime in the world, or even verification to put the capture process wherever it made the most business sense. We had one of the first invoice processing solutions, which is yet another set of challenges, and on and on as we've continued along through time, bringing in the web services, services-oriented architecture, bringing in analytics, and just continuing to add to the product. And what you see here on that line along the bottom is really an organic architecture that's been built, managed by a single team, actually built by a consistent team that is still here at IBM. And in fact, we were acquired in 2010 by IBM, which gave us a lot of global resources. It gave us a lot of additional capabilities that we can incorporate, such as IBM's content analytics for document classification. It gave us tighter integrations to a lot of the IBM repositories. We've always been repository agnostic, so we have integrations with OpenText and with EMC and with Highland and with SharePoint and others, and maintain those and continue to look at those as opportunities. And now we're looking at mobile capture and some other stuff. So really the takeaway here, though, is that it's a team that's focused on capture. We are now a part of IBM, but we're still in our original building, still most of the original team, and still focused on capture. So just real quick before we get into the product, what are we talking about here? I think everybody on this call understands a CMS 1500. It's got the red dropout form ink. That ink can be filtered out in the scanner. Back in the day, we used to have red bulbs. Either way, the ink, red ink would drop out, leaving just the data, and then we can capture that data. It's actually a pretty neat little system. It persists to this day. However, there's the wrinkle of what we call the black claim, which is when red claims are faxed or copied, and this is a persistent issue. We have addressed this issue as well, but that's yet another challenge. And then, as Sean said, there's attachments, correspondence, and other items that might need to be collected along with the claim. But that's pretty much the world that the medical claim capture system is dealing with. Now, back in the day when we first got started, you had a very people-intensive process, and I've got a little head here where every time there's a human being that had to touch a claim, and this was this way, but this was a pretty typical flow where, in a clearinghouse or whatever, claims are being brought in, or they're arriving via the mail, and they need to be opened, and staples need to be removed, and they need to be sorted and prepared, and then at some point they're inventoried. Perhaps they move from different personnel. There's an examiner. The examiner does some data entry. Then there's the data entry into the adjudication system, where the CPT codes and the payment schedules can be matched up. Then another human being would often either microfilm it or in some way archive it. Then there would be a number of QA steps, and finally we can get rid of the paper. This was very common in the 90s when we first started with industry. So we looked at this and said, boy, there's a lot of places that we can automate and take that manual labor out of the process. The main area where we can really see benefit is the data entry piece. And that's where, a lot of these claims, solutions focus on. There's a lot more to it, but this is certainly, as you can see by this, basically what I'm trying to tell you here is that OCR is a big piece of this labor-saving device. So a new release is called DataCap Taskmaster Medical Claim Capture. the CMS 1500 and UB claims. We looked at those, plus the attachments, plus the black claims. There's a number of interfaces, the scanning interface, the verification interface that are available in the web-based version, which makes it easy for administrators. There's a number of validations that are built just for the claim world. In other words, we can match diagnosis and CPT codes. We can make sure that the various code sets are have the right alphanumeric consistency to them. We can certainly deliver HIPAA-compliant 837-5010 output, which is really the industry standard, what all the adjudication systems want. And the other thing that to keep in mind about Taskmaster is, the set of the rules is a subset of the broader Taskmaster product, and that means that you can consider extending it to other areas of your business. So now, if you love process slides as much as I do, you're able to automate the claims processing. And yes, there are human beings are still needed to open the envelopes and get the documents ready for scanning. Although faxes now, you don't need to scan a fax. We can pull the fax directly from the fax server. It's already an image. Put it into the system. So we can take that element of paper handling out of it. Then all of the locating of the data entry, the validations are all done in the background, and just the exceptions can be presented to a data verifier who can fix perhaps a low confidence character or perhaps a failed validation. We can put the image in the archive for 7 years, or whatever the legal regulation is. Most of them are 7 years, and you can get rid of the paper at that point. At the very same time, we pass along the data to the adjudication system, and at that point, most claims can be paid. A customer service rep can answer questions, call it up, see where it is in the process, and if there's any strange exceptions, well, we can move on to case management and other solutions. But we've taken a lot of the manual labor out of this process and made it much more streamlined. We're able to see generally 50 to 60% productivity gains, which means you can take the same amount of people and process twice the amount of claims, or you can do the same amount of claims with about half the amount of people, and you can give folks something much more valuable to do for the organization than type data. It's all about the return on investment. It's all about the ability to improve your processes and to get turnaround times under control for claim payment, and to be able to satisfy customers when they call with a question. You'll be able to see where the claim is in the process. So that's really where the great value is for customers. Just for efficiency, we'll take a look at what a Verify panel looks like. There isn't much to do in terms of interacting with a capture system, except those areas where there's an exception, where there's perhaps a low confidence field or something fails a business rule. It's flagged for an operator. You can see a typical screen they might look at where you have the image snippet and you have the data in green, and you can move through these systems very, very quickly. You can move through the claims, very quickly. Those that need some fixing, so that you end up with 100% accuracy when the process is done. I want to give you two use cases. Both of them are Blue Cross companies. Here's one that is not a major Blue Cross in that it's got about 2,000 claims a day. Some of the larger ones are almost 10 times that. But certainly an ability to get a great benefit. We move them away from the microfilm processing that we looked at earlier and into an area where they're getting their labor savings of about 50%. What they really liked was the ability to use the thin client verification. So they still have verifiers all in the same room, but they're on a browser. And they can come in the morning, turn on their computer, set the browser to put in their URL and password, and immediately work is flowed to them via the browser, and it makes it so much easier for the IT department. And in this case, it's not a large IT department, and they really like the idea that administration and maintenance of the system could be made a lot easier with this thin client approach. Again, they're doing claims and the attachments and the black claims and getting a great benefit out of it. The next step, though, and the important point about DataCap and Taskmaster is this extensibility concept. And we have a great example, another Blue Cross, who was seeing great benefits. They were getting about 20,000 claims a day, and they saw extraordinary benefits in the productivity of the claims processing. But somebody pretty sharp in the finance department said, wow, we got our return on investment in less than a year. Maybe there's other things we can do with this technology. And they started a process where, first of all, let's identify where we might be able to use capture. Where do we have a lot of paper? Well, they found out in accounts payable, in enrollments and disenrollments, in legal contracts, in human resources. This it was a fairly large payer statewide. They had a lot of facilities. They had a lot of paper. So they decided to roll out and extend the capture department by department. And what was really interesting to me is they did it in a very strategic way. They had a couple of rules. You know, they said, we can go paperless here, and you can get in on this. And the benefits are you can have instant access to, you know, your documents on the computer. But you have to give up the paper. You cannot keep the paper, and you're going to have to get over that human need to collect something in your hands. And also, we're not just going to come in and automate how you do things today. We're going to do a detailed analysis of your process, of each process, and make sure if we can take a document out of it, if we can take a step out of that process, we will. So both of these are very, very key to this concept and why it was so successful. And indeed, adding a department could be a year-long process. Not that it takes that long, but that the process needed to have the time for good evaluation, for good reporting, for making sure that everybody on the team, all the stakeholders have something to say in the matter and help shape the new process. So it's been very interesting to watch how this company has taken this and extended it. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at your own claims. Is there a way that the bigger enterprise can benefit from it? So that leads me to discuss a little bit about the broader product known as DataCap Taskmaster. The version 8.1 has 3 different levels of licensing model. A simplified kind of a let's say scan and archive type of solution. It still has OCR and data extraction. It still has document ID. It has a lot of power in it, but it is at 50% the price of a standard DataCap application. You don't have the thin client scanning, but it's a great way to get started for some companies that simply have a basement full of paper and they want to get it into their archive and get rid of that paper. Taskmaster Capture, the full standard product, has multiple OCR engines, multiple classification techniques, thin and thick client operating together on the same platform, global language support, lots of scalability, security, and you know it's been hammered on by some very large IBM customers, and they have made sure that we're able to meet their levels of security that they need. So this 8.1 it reflects a lot of the input of IBM customers. It has a number of user interfaces. We're looking at the one here from entry level that's pretty easy to work with, doesn't require a lot of training, you can get up and running. So that's pretty neat in terms of being able to extend to other areas of the company. It doesn't require a whole lot of training. DataCap Taskmaster Accounts Payable Capture, like medical claims, is a set of pre-configured rules that we have built in Taskmaster and that we can roll out to an AP department. And much like the medical claim world, the AP department has a lot of very similar validations and procedural steps in their process. So we were able to pack all of that in here. During that evolution since 1988 that we looked at, we saw the evolution of capture to a point where every step that previously you needed to touch a piece of paper, aside from opening it when it first arrives, can now be automated. And we can get paper out of the hands of workers and make them much more productive. And that is, I think that's what's really important here. The last couple of years, we've seen an explosion of documents don't just arrive in the mailroom anymore. They come via email to various knowledge workers and departments throughout the enterprise. They come via fax to various departments. Now they're even coming via mobile device. Perhaps there's an archive full, and we need to bring those in. So DataCap has evolved into a multi-channel input portal where all of these documents can be brought in and standardized, put into a standard format, and processed together. So this is something to keep in mind when you move beyond the world of medical claims. And what we've seen is it's a multi-channel world coming in, and it's a multi-channel world going out again. So like medical claims needs to format its data into the EDI HIPAA-compliant 5010 and send it to adjudication, well, throughout the organization, we need to deliver documents and deliver data in formats. ERP, for the logistics department and the finance department, so SAP can read it, or Oracle Financials. But business process systems over in sales, or customer relationship management systems, all of them, we need to be able to feed those. So DataCap becomes this portal where it comes in from many ways and it goes out to many ways, and we're in the middle, directing traffic, determining what's what. And that's where capture has evolved to, and pretty interesting stuff. The way we manage it inside Taskmaster is through this rules engine that we call Rule Runner Service. And as you see on this architecture slide, all of the capture capabilities are orchestrated as you move through the process from input to extraction, to document ID, to validations, to export. As you move through the workflow, you can interface through thin client or thick client scanning, thin or thick client verification, or the administration, which can be thin or thick. So you have a lot of ways to interface with it, but the rules are what control the steps. And when a document changes, when the new CMS 1500 is introduced with some new fields on it, what will happen is we will go into the rules and we will adjust the rules to accommodate the new fields and the new requirements. So this is something that IT people really respond to. They understand it, they get it, and it gives a level of flexibility that a lot of our competitors cannot maintain or keep up with. So pretty neat stuff. So all in all, we look at the benefits that we provide a customer, which is obviously getting those documents put in, processed faster, getting services, and in this, in your case, in getting claims processed faster, more accurately. We are able to eliminate manual data entry and take out the cost as well as the inaccuracy and the cost of inaccuracy, lost documents, claims paid incorrectly, as we saw, still 10%. So it's still an area that we can focus on and bring some improvement to. This can help with that. Cost savings such as document shipping, paper handling, paper storage, all of the paper costs, we take that out of it. And also maintain compliance. And of course, with the medical claim world, we're talking about HIPAA. And HIPAA is, you need to be able to monitor who sees documents. You need to be able to control who has access to data. If it is scanned immediately when it enters, and it's in a system which is only accessible via passwords to only a certain class of people who've already signed the HIPAA documents, then you are HIPAA compliant. So we can help with that process. And as you saw with the multi-channel input, the multi-channel output, we're able to connect silos of content and keep things moving quickly so we can engage with customers. So that's sort of the list of benefits for capture. And then once we joined IBM, we suddenly had access to all of these other capabilities within the ECM portfolio. And we came up with this concept of content in motion, where it begins with the capture, but you can activate it with business process management. You can do social content management. You can use analytics to analyze it. And you can make sure that your life cycle of that document is well managed, that is destroyed on the last day when it is viable and is, it's what they call defensible disposal, that it's legally compliant with all the various regulations. There's a number of tools and capabilities in the IBM portfolio that we have access to, that our customers have access to, all from the same vendor. So that's been a nice addition to have all of these capabilities. I mentioned at the top that Sean travels around. He does a lot of consulting with customers, and he helps them say, well, what is the right vendor for me? And he's developed a list of criteria. So why don't you take over here, Sean, and help people understand what this means?
Sure. So, we call this slide vendor report card. I think this would apply to both taking a look at customers' existing solutions, right, or if you're considering a replacement solution in terms of your evaluation process. Obviously the most important thing is making sure that you look at your overall value and total cost of ownership. What are you going to get with your licenses, or what do you currently have with your licenses in terms of capabilities? Are you able to extend beyond medical claims in addition to your medical claims processing? And what's the ongoing cost of your support and maintenance? I think that it's important to not lose focus that for most customers in this space, medical claims, or in the property and casualty world, medical bill processing for auto insurance, that the medical claims processing is the core application and where you're getting the majority of your ROI. You don't want to lose focus on that. You'll see vendors talking about a lot of different capabilities, mobile, distributed capture, and those things are very important, and they definitely add value to an overall solution. But you need to start with the underpinnings, which is medical claims, and make sure that you're getting optimum efficiency and accuracy in terms of throughput and first pass rate for your medical claims solution. And then, all the additional stuff on top of that would be additional considerations. But make sure that you don't lose track of the medical claims component of this to begin with. Highly recommend that you have a capture product in a medical claims vertical from one vendor. Right, can be problematic. That will get you under one support infrastructure, gives you one person to go to if you encounter any issues or need enhancements or change requests implemented. When you're looking at things like the NUCC proposing a new CMS 1500 form, you can go directly to the vendor to ask them questions about that. You don't need to worry about having to deal with both the capture vendor and a third party that might be providing the medical claims vertical. I think product maturity is extremely important. Not all vendors entered this market at the same time, right? So these are easy things to get an understanding of. When was the base product initially released? When did they come out with the medical claims vertical? What's the current release levels will give you a sense of what the level of activity has been over the years in that space. Right. So, for example, DataCap has over 14 years of product maturity in the medical claims vertical, which means that they've been able to incorporate all the feedback that they've gotten from their partners and their customers and from various other sources back into that product over that period of time. Right, making it a very mature offering that, as David mentioned earlier, and I think is critically important, that DataCap has grown organically as opposed to other vendors that have grown through acquisition. I think another thing to look at closely and make sure that you're asking the right question, are you in the boat by yourself? What's the number of customers that a particular vendor has for their base product for their medical claims vertical? For example, IBM DataCap has about 40 medical claims customers currently. And you want to be careful that, some vendors that don't actually have a lot of customers processing medical claims might give you an answer that, how many insurance customers. But insurance can be, life insurance. It can be different areas within health insurance that don't involve medical claims. It can be within the enterprise content management space, not the content space, right? So you really want to be careful to make sure that you're asking the very direct question and getting a clear answer about, how much is this, out there within the marketplace today, because honestly, that will drive the level of investment in R&D and focus from a particular vendor on that product moving forward. I know that I think that we have primarily an operational audience today, but IT, is a really important criteria in this day and age. I mentioned earlier that, things have been relatively quiet for the past 8 years, and that can sometimes be a bad thing. We've encountered customers that have expressed concern from the IT side where their application software was really lacking from an IT perspective, right? So you want to make sure that your application software is current in terms of all the various advances in terms of hardware and software. So multi-core processors, 64-bit operating systems, virtualization capabilities, service-oriented architecture in .NET. These may not be things that are extremely familiar to you directly, but I can tell you if you talk to your IT teams about it, it would be very important to them. And the honest reality is there are companies out there that their development platforms are lagging. Some of their support for operating systems and databases are lagging, right? So, again, an easy thing to understand and get a sense of, right, but a very important criteria to take a look at. I always, recommend to my customers that they, either assess their existing support infrastructure, or if looking at a replacement product, look at what the support infrastructure would be of that replacement product, what kind of SLAs are being offered, what's the specific number of support staff specific to that particular product suite, what are the hours of coverage, etc. You want to make sure that even if the product has all the capabilities and somebody can give you a demo and it meets all the features and functionality criteria, that once you've actually purchased it and you're in a production environment, that you can expect to get the kind of support that you need. And then, what's the ability for future expansion? We are finding that, companies that have had medical claims OCR solution in place for several years have expanded into other areas. I mentioned dental claims earlier, a lot of advanced classification, multi-channel capture, as David was mentioning, semi-structured OCR, analytics, case management, a variety of different areas, understanding your vendor, what their capabilities in those areas, I think is very important in terms of evaluating not only your current vendor, but possible replacements. And then finally, check references. If a product is good as people say it is, there should be references out there that you should be able to confirm that with. There should be happy customers, and they should be willing to talk to you. So just wanted to provide that. As David said, I have been out there talking with a lot of customers. I have lived and breathed the medical claims vertical processing market for many years, right, and just wanted to share some of these things with you. Right, back to you, David.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. We have reached actually the end of our time that we have today, and we're going to, and thank you for participating. Thank you to Sean Pendergrass from R2K today to provide his expertise and experience and help us understand what's new in DataCap Taskmaster Medical Claims Capture 8.1. So for everyone, on behalf of IBM and R2K, this is David Jenness. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and have a happy and safe time, and be productive. Thanks.